This last video for Chapter 2 is going to explain a little bit more about why we use chained price indices as opposed to just having a base year and then switching that base year every year or every 5 years or every 10 years. And the reason is really that economists are a little bit anal and don't like when growth rates change when we change the base year. So let's do an example with two goods, potatoes and wine, and we'll see what we mean. All right, so we know how to calculate nominal GDP and real GDP in year 0 and year 1. So first we're going to calculate nominal GDP. So in year 0 we have 10 pounds of potatoes at $1 each. That's 10 times 1 or 10. We have 5 bottles of wine at $2 each. 5 times 2 is also 10. 10 plus 10 gives us a nominal GDP of 20. In year 1, we produce more potatoes at the same price, 15 potatoes times $1. 15 times 1 is 15. And the same amount of wine, 5 bottles of wine, but the price has gone up to $3. 5 times 3 is 15. 15 plus 15 is 30. So nominal GDP has increased from 30 to 20. And we can calculate the growth rate in nominal GDP, which is just going to be year 1, 30, minus year 0, 20, divided by year 0, 20. So 10 divided by 20 is 50%. Okay, but what about real GDP? Well, with real GDP, we have a choice to make. We need to choose which base year we're going to use. Are we going to use year 0 or are we going to use year 1? And so if we use year 0 as the base year, then remember the prices are $1 for potatoes and $2 for wine. We get 10 times 1 plus 5 times 2 is 20 for real GDP in year 0. And then 15 times 1 plus 5 times 2 is 15 plus 10 or $25 for year 1. We do the rate of growth. 25 minus 20 is 5, divided by 20 is 25%. So if we use year 0 as the base year, we get a growth rate of real GDP of 25%. But what if we use year 1? Well, if we use year 1 as the base year, now we're going to use year 1 prices instead of year 0 prices. So potatoes are still the same, it's $1, but now wine is $3. So in year 0, it's 10 times 1 is 10, plus 5 times 3 is 15, 10 plus 15 is 25. In year 1, it's 15 times 1 is 15, plus 5 times 3 is 15. 15 plus 15 is 30. Now the rate of growth of real GDP is 30 minus 25, or 5, divided by 25, or 20%. So what we had been doing until the 1990s was just saying, okay, the rate of growth has changed when we change the base year. But as economists, we don't really like that. We don't want to change the real GDP growth every 5 years or so when we change the base year, right? That just is hard. It's difficult to sleep. And so what did we do? Well, we came up with this idea of constructing chain indices. And chain indices basically just create a price index which by definition keeps the growth rate the same when we change the base year. And it does this basically by coming up with an average price level between the 2 years, between basically every 2 years, right? So it's changed 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. It's a chain of price indices. And so we're not going to do a mathematical example, but these are the steps that the BEA uses to construct these chain type indices. So first, you construct the rate of change of real GDP between 2 years in 2 different ways, right? Using the first year as the base year and then using the second year as the base year, just as we did, right, with year 0 and year 1 with the potatoes and wine. Then we construct the rate of change of real GDP as the average of these 2 rates of change. So we had a growth rate of 20% and a growth rate of 25%, so the average would be 22.5%. Then we construct an index of the level of real GDP by linking or chaining the constructed rates of change for each year, meaning that we basically come up with a number that doesn't actually exist in the numbers, but it's really, really close. And that will give us the same rate of growth no matter which year we're using for the base year, because we're going to multiply this index, this price index, by nominal GDP to derive the real GDP in chain dollars. And that means that because we use these chain prices, when we change the base year from 2009 to 2012 or 2018, our growth rates don't change. And that's really the only reason that we constructed these chain type indices, and made a lot of difficult problem sets for intermediate macroeconomics, but I'm not going to make you do that in this class. So that's all it is. It's just important to remember that when you see chained dollars, you're looking at real dollars. And the only difference between chained and real, with a specific base year, is this slight mathematical difference in order to keep the growth rates the same.